Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on the Big Blue View YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, I have a question today as we start this episode of the show. I want to know what in the world has gotten into this guy. This guy, number 8, Daniel Jones. What in the world has gotten into him? I don't know if the beard that Jones has grown has gone to his head, has transformed his personality. I don't know what's going on with Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones today, speaking to media on Tuesday at Quest Diagnostics, Daniel Jones was talking about running an offense that would score a lot of points and talking about expecting to go to the playoffs this season. And I'm like, where did this guy come from? What happened to meek, mild, hardworking, memeable Daniel Jones, the guy that everybody laughed at, guy who never said anything that got anybody's attention, but certainly played in a way that got him snickered at over the years as Giants quarterback, and got the Giants snickered at for sticking with him. What in the world has gotten into Jones? I mean, I got to go back to the bobblehead. I need to draw a beard on this bobblehead. I need to do something because this is not the same guy. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, Jones, we all know the deal with Daniel Jones. We all know this is make or break for Daniel Jones. We all know that the Giants tried to trade up in the draft and get Drake May. We all know that if Jones isn't really, really good this year, and maybe if the Giants aren't really, really good, we all know that Daniel Jones won't be the quarterback next year. But geez, I have to tell you, it's hard not to root for the guy. The guy's worked really, really hard. He's had some bad circumstances as the Giants quarterback over the years. And yes, a lot of it's been his own fault, but a lot of what's going on in the first 5 years hasn't been his fault either. And I have to tell you that I'm rooting for the guy to be successful in 2024. Um, he's had a training camp and an off season where you could see that there was a little bit of an edge to him where you know, he wasn't happy about the Giants, telling him flat out that he would see quarterbacks in the building around draft time. That they would take a quarterback, or that they would at least consider taking a quarterback. He shouldn't have been happy about that. There's been an edge to Jones all spring, all summer that to my eyes, when I've been around him, hasn't really existed in the past. And when he started talking about playoffs today and scoring a lot of points and all of that, I was like, whoa, this is just not the same guy. We don't know what's going to happen this year. I think we all know that Daniel Jones is never going to morph into Tom Brady. He's never going to morph into that level of superstar quarterback. I think there's a pretty good quarterback in there in the right circumstance. I think he showed that in 2022. Fingers crossed for the Giants and for Jones that he shows that player, and maybe a better player than that, with good pass protection if the Giants are able to give him that. And there's some optimism with this veteran offensive line that they will be able to do that with Malik Neighbors, with some other good wide receivers, young rookie tight end in Theo Johnson, Devin Singletary at running back, and in a stable of exciting running backs, young running backs behind him. We'll see what happens, but I'm just blown away by the not the braggadocio from Jones, because that's not it, but I'm blown away by the directness of his expectations, and the edge, and the little bit of fire that some of his words have shown so far this year. And hopefully for the Giants, that will translate into better play. It will translate into wins. It will translate into being competitive and making a run at making the playoffs. And we'll see what happens. I mean, it's very possible. I've said before, it's very possible that the Giants, the over and under this year is 6.5. I've said it's very possible that they get to 9 wins. It's very possible that they get to 4 wins, and we'll have to see how it goes. I'm one that would bet the over, not substantially over. I would bet 7 or 8 wins, and and we'll see how it goes. But I was reading the stuff from Jones today, and as I've said a couple times, I'm just blown away. And Daniel, dude, keep the beard, keep Kay Adams happy. Kay Adams fawning over you again, talking about my boy Daniel Jones in an interview on Up and Adams with Giants right tackle Jermaine Illuminor, hittingly, because the internet thinks it's so. The internet thinks that Kay Adams and Daniel Jones are a thing, and they're really not. But Kay Adams kiddingly calling him my boyfriend, and good for Kay for having a sense of humor about this. And I know that I know that that she and Daniel, have some chemistry on her show when he's on, and all of that. And I know what the internet thinks, because the internet just takes off and does whatever the internet does whenever the internet wants to do it. But at least Kay Adams is having some fun with that. So Daniel, dude, Kay Adams is Team Beard. I'm Team Beard. Jermaine Illuminor's Team Beard. Your teammates are mostly Team Beard. Big Blue View readers who voted in our poll are overwhelmingly Team Beard. Keep the darn beard, dude. Keep the beard. Do not shave the beard before Sunday. Keep the beard and see what happens. It's I think so far it's been good for you. It's a good look, and I think it's been good for that edge that you're carrying around as well. All right, let's talk about something else. Haven't done a show since the Giants re-signed Adori Jackson, veteran cornerback. Folks had really called for that. A lot of Giants fans had been calling for the Giants to do that for months now. Uh, Brian Daboll said the Giants had been talking to Jackson's people for a couple of weeks about a possible return. Listen, I think that if you gave both sides truth serum, I think they would both say that they're surprised to be back together. Adori Jackson didn't play up to Adori Jackson type standards a year ago. There were questions about his effort. There were missed tackles, the most missed tackles of his career. And you watch the film, and to be brutally honest, some of those missed tackles are effort related. Some of those are business decisions. I thought that Adoree Jackson had basically played his way out of a return to the New York Giants. But Adoree Jackson didn't find a market. The Giants didn't find a cornerback to replace Adoree Jackson. They wanted to draft a cornerback in the second round of the draft. That didn't happen. The guys that they were interested in weren't available by the time their pick at 47 came along. They looked at the free agent market. Nothing matched up. Probably the guys that they were interested in were probably too expensive, probably had other offers, wanted to go other places. But so nothing matched up really in free agency. They I know that they would have considered a waiver claim to add to that cornerback room, but as Joe Shane said, it appears that the players who they were really interested in, the bubble guys who they thought might come available, the guys they thought would add to their team, did not become available on the waiver wire, when teams cut from 90 players to 53. So in the end, the Giants, maybe despite their misgivings about how Jackson played last year, and Adoree Jackson, maybe primarily only because he didn't find a market for his services out there elsewhere. Jackson is back. Cordell Flott and Nick McLeod competed for that cornerback 2 job, and neither one was able to win it clearly. Jackson, first round pick a few years ago by the Tennessee Titans, played a year for Shane Bowen, knows Bowen, has some familiarity with the way that Bowen runs his defensive scheme. So he should be able to get up to speed in that sense fairly quickly. The question is going to be his physical condition. Although he's been working out, he's been training, all of that. Playing football is different. We'll see how many snaps Jackson can play on Sunday when the Giants open their season against the Minnesota Vikings. But probably in the end, a good move. I will put it this way. Probably this close to the season, probably the best move that the Giants could have made to upgrade a cornerback position that the spring and summer showed us desperately needed an infusion of talent heading into the regular season. All right, I want to talk a little bit about one aspect of Sunday's game against the Vikings, and that is that this is a really, really big test for this Giants revamped offensive line. An offensive line that really didn't begin practicing together with the 5 guys in the 5 spots that they will actually play in the regular season. They didn't begin practicing together until last week. You've got Andrew Thomas at left tackle. You've got John Runyon Jr. at left guard. John Michael Schmitz at center. You've got Greg Van Roten at right guard and Jermaine Illuminor over at right tackle. And on Sunday, the Giants are facing a Brian Flores coached Minnesota Vikings defense that blitzed more than any other team in the NFL last year. Brian Flores brings the house constantly. Brian Flores will challenge this offensive line, this veteran group. He will challenge their abilities as blockers. He will challenge their communication as a functioning offensive line group. And this will be a huge test for this revamped veteran offensive line. If the Giants can hold up to this, and this Minnesota there may be other teams that the Giants will face that have better overall pass rushes, but the amount of pressure, the amount of different schemes, the number of guys that Flores and the Vikings are going to send at the Giants, they're going to try to confuse and overwhelm this offensive line. And this will be a massive test and a great sign if the Giants can do a good job giving Daniel Jones the opportunity to get the ball out, get the ball down the field to Malik Neighbors and Jalen Hyatt, open some holes in the running game for Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. I'm very, very curious to see how that offensive line holds up against the pressure that Brian Flores is going to put on them on Sunday afternoon at MetLife Stadium. All right, last thing I wanted to mention is that this week the Giants unveiled the final 10, numbers 10 through number 1, in their top 100 players of all time list that has been worked on by a blue ribbon panel or a panel of experts that have been around the team for a long time, whatever you want to call that panel. This was an impartial group that got together and voted on these top 100 players. And go to giants.com, check out the entire list. I think these guys did a fantastic job, not only honoring the present Giants players, the ones that most of us are familiar with, but honoring the past, honoring the the teams from long ago, the Giants teams from the 1930s, the Giants teams from the 40s, 50s, 60s, all of those players who we only know from the history books and from the stories and from looking at the names in the Ring of Honor and names of players in the Hall of Fame. They did a fantastic job putting this together. Lawrence Taylor, of course, the number one player of all time in Giants history. Everybody knew that all roads led to LT, being the top player on this list. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest with you, a little bit surprised. Eli Manning was, of course, the top quarterback on the list. Little bit surprised that he came in at number 8 instead of somewhere in the top 5, but we're splitting hairs, no big deal. I'm not going to quibble about guys like Mel Hine and uh, and Michael Strahan and even Harry Carson, being above Eli on the list, but I did think that Eli would come in just a little bit higher than number 8. But again, fantastic list. If you haven't been following it, go to giants.com, look at Giants 100, check out the 100 players that were selected for this list. Click on the bios of each guy. If you're not familiar, you'll learn a lot about Giants history by doing that. And if you're a Giants fan who isn't familiar with some of these players, I highly recommend that you do that. You'll be a much more knowledgeable, much better educated Giants fan if you take the time to really get to know the history of some of these great players from days gone by. All right, Giants fans, that's the show for today. Thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other. Root for this guy to keep the beard and stay safe out there. Thank you very, very much, Giants fans. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.